So in our quest of learning about idolatry, we already talked about the heavenly court. We talk about first chapter of Genesis. It's the heavenly court, heavenly kingdom. We talked about it last week. Now, I'm sure that you can, many will say, okay, Rabbi, it's a nice story. I hear you, I can clap my hand. But is it a true story? Maybe it's just a story like any other story. Why should I believe in it? Or maybe there are many interpretations. Why should I believe your story? And in general, how should I believe that Moses existed? And the Torah was written by Moses. The whole thing, you open the internet today, YouTube is full of that questions. So for that reason, which is so important for the topic of idolatry, believing in God, so I will dedicate today to a miracle that Moses put in his book, a miracle that nobody can challenge. It is actually the only miracle that is not about somebody else walking on water or somebody else resurrecting or all kind of miracles that nobody have seen, but few people there, here and there. It's a miracle that we are not even required to believe in it. It's a miracle that just see it and you know it's true. That's the only miracle actually that for that kind that exists. Any other miracle, the Rambam says, you can always challenge. Even the Exodus you can challenge. I was not there when the Israelites came from Egypt. I don't know what happened. But there is one miracle that's in your hand. It's a living miracle that you can see and touch and smell every day. And that is the miraculous chapter 1 of Genesis. The story of the history of the world as told by Moses in chapter 1. It is a miracle. It's an unbelievable miracle. It cannot be even explained by any theory or any explanation. There is no explanation for it. How truthful, it's amazingly how truthful it is. So what you can ask, what are you talking about? Many people believe that chapter 1, Genesis, the story of creation, is just another myth of Moses' time. They counted Egyptians told stories, Babylonian told story, and Moses also told the story, like a mythical story. That's all the scientists in the world, all the Bible critics, and even scholars all say the same thing. It's a Bronze Age story. Don't take it seriously. Well, let's see. We know what other people said in Moses' time. We know what the Egyptians said. We know what the Babylonians said about creation. We know what the Indians said, what the Chinese said. We know. Moses grew up in Egypt, in Pharaoh's home. We know what Pharaoh's wise people believed in Moses' time. It's written in many books, like Karen Armstrong's book, History of God. Look at it. It tell you exactly what the Egyptians believe in Moses' time. They believe that the universe was created or was started when a male god named Ra, like Ramses, R-A-H, impregnated a female goddess named Nun. And the father was so jealous of the embryo, he slashed Nun's belly, killed the embryo, and threw the body into the sea of near Akko, Mediterranean, near Akko. At springtime, the lamenting mother, she cried and cried and cried. Finally, she dived into the sea. So she found the testicle of her embryo, and she resurrected the son. And lo and behold, that's the story of creation. From that point, creation was established and flourished. That's the story of creation that Moses knew, was told when he grew up in Pharaoh. Well, all nations around him, he probably met many ambassadors. All of them told the same similar story, full of sexual perversion, rivalry between gods, jealousy, killing, murdering, resurrecting. The Greek, for instance, I make it short, I don't want to dwell on it. The Greek, for instance, believed the Titans, the famous Titans, cut their father's sexual organ to exit from the mother womb. And that's how creation started. This is Karen Armstrong telling us. So again, full of sexual stories, ugly stories, nothing to do with facts. It's a myth. It's a myth. I can imagine people, I'm not putting it down. I know it's very passionate, a lot of passion in it. You can go over the street praising it, singing hymns, and I imagine they did it. They built temple for that. They clapped their hands. The poets wrote all kinds of philosophers talk about resurrection, about the springtime and all this. Well, that's what Moses heard when he was Pharaoh's home. Now look at Moses' story. It's neat, clean. No mention of any rivalry between gods. In fact, there is only one God. No jealousy, no murdering, no resurrecting. And in fact, it's a dry story, factual story. It's like a scientific account, like a count of day by day what happened. Day 1, day 2, day 3. None of that exists in an ancient time. Moses also see an order. You know, he says, the bird, the fish came before the bird came before the crocodile. Who in Moses' time knew about it? To us, it looked like maybe simple. But in Moses' time, we talk about an order of animal in nature. For Pharaoh, it was just a mishmash of animals running about, killing each other. He just went he enjoyed game, killing the animals for his pleasure, that's all. Nowhere in Egyptian mythology there is a description who were born who came first on earth, who came second, third. There's no such thing. So Moses' story is dry, factual, a dry account of day by day, which does not exist in Hammurabi, in Babylonian. No one talks about it. How can anyone in his mind place Moses' story among the ancient myth? It's not. Well, you can say, well, what about science? I agree with you, he says, but is the story true? Does it match our science? So let's see. Let's see if it. Now, the stake of this comparison is huge. I want to mention to you. Moses, according to Moses, the story of creation or Genesis is filled by God's name. God name Elohim, which is true, the judge, is seek justice, is truth, the signature is truth. His name Elohim appears 32 times in just one chapter, the more dense in the entire Bible. No such story. And each signature, any time in the name of Elohim appear in the text, it's a signature of truthfulness. 30 times the name appear, signature of truthfulness is stamp of kosher stamp on the story. I remember the number 32 because in Hebrew 30 is L, 2 is B, a bet. LB is a Hebrew lev, it's a heart. So from here, the rabbi said that the Elohim sits, or the creator sits at the heart of nature. That comes from here. 32 number, you cannot forget it. But 32 times signature of truthfulness. So if I found that, let's say the stakes that we engaged in, if I found a story not true, I have also discredited not only the chapter, but Elohim names. And I discredited Moses' entire Bible, Torah, let's say. You don't need to taste more than a spoon. One spoon can tell you if the soup is rotten or not. If chapter 1 is not real, what else is real? The stakes are high. On the other hand, if I have found the chapter truthful, true, credible, let's say by science, wow, that gives Moses a big credit. How could he tell such a true story 3,500 years ago, growing in Pharaoh's home? How could he tell such a story? So let's see what Moses says compared to science. Now, how can we summarize what science says? We have a video produced by History Channel not long ago. It's called How the Earth Was Formed. It's a 2 hours video. It's available in any library. Watch it. It's a beautiful video summarizing for us everything that science says from the Big Bang until today, evolution, everything, the whole story for the last 13.8 billion years, from Big Bang until today. It summarized everything we know from archaeology, geology, astronomy, biology, physics, mathematics, everything. They did it in one big story. And also the brag. At the beginning, they tell you how it started. He said, until now, humanity, mankind believe in the Bible. It was only 5,000 years ago. Now we're going to tell you a true story. So the video is made under the premise, open premise, that it has nothing to do with the Bible. Fine. Let's see what it says. Now, the detail of this video, detail about what I'm talking now, you can find on my site because I gave classes on it. If you enter noahide7commanded.com, and you can find there are classes there on idolatry. You can find the comparison in detail. Here, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give you just the thrust of the story. So the History Channel goes, tell you the story of creation. It doesn't recognize any days no 6 days, but there are 6 stages. And as I read it and I saw it, I held my head. I said, wow, what they say on the History Channel as stage does match perfectly what Moses said, and he called it a day. So a day of creation by Moses turned out to be a stage in the History Channel, but they don't recognize it. They just tell you the story as they see it. Turn out, wow, it does match. So let's see just the headline of the comparison. And so let's see why it's important, because if the story is true, if the Moses story is true, it's important for the concept of idolatry. Moses' story is true, and he tells you not to worship idols, and he was going to tell you who are the idols and what to do and what not to do. Well, if he's truthful, if he's credible in chapter 1, he's probably credible for the rest of it. His revelation is true, because otherwise, how can he tell us such a true story? So that's why we spend time on it, to see how extraordinarily accurate Moses is. Unbelievable. So, how long is the age of the, how old is the universe? Of course, here come a big disparity on the surface. It's known that the Bible says 5,782 years from beginning. That's what they say, Bible says. Moses says 5,000, only 5,000 years ago, and the universe was done in 1 week. That's how they tell you. Whereas science says, of course, 13.7 billion years. Nothing to compare. Well, the length of the universe. The rabbi, many years ago, about 1,000 years ago already, wrote down tradition that they received from their master, Kabbalistic master. And they calculated, I have the calculation on my shelf, here on the library. They calculated the length of a day of creation, 1 day of creation, they say, was equal to 2.5 billion years. They came up to the number based on psalm song and the tradition. It's solid traditional calculation. 2.1 billion years on the average of one day times 6, for 6 days, you come up with 12.1 billion years. 12.6, very close to 13. Another tradition that Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan in his book says, or quote, come out with 15 billion years. So we have 2 Kabbalistic numbers, at least 2. One talking about 13, one talking about 15. The average is, well, close, very close to 13.8 that the science says. And a day of creation is not our day. The rabbi recognized long ago. Because the day, at the end of the first day, he says, and it was evening in the morning, day 1. How can you call it day 1 when the sun and moon is already, will not be seen only on day 4? So day 1 cannot be based on the sun and the moon. So day with a capital D is not a day with a small d like our day. A day with capital D of creation is an era, a stage. Oh, that's a long tradition. The church and the general society, I never recognized. But traditionally, that was taught to Jewish boys and girls at schools. I grew up with that, like a natural thing. Don't think that day of creation is our day. No, it's long. And well, Kabbalah says 2.5 billion on the average. But they know it's not our day, it's long day. So our day is not. Let's go on to the comparison. Remember what the science is gonna, in short, what the science says, stage. The creation, science recognized clearly a stage. Moses in Genesis call it a day, stage and a day, perfectly fitting each other. Let's say science says the first day, the first stage. They don't call it day, the stage. So science says, the History Channel says, look it up and see it, that after the Big Bang, energy was transformed into matter using Einstein formula, entropy decline, and space expanding, galaxy was formed, gases, primitive molecule, water, light, chaos was turned into order, and so forth. And about 4.5 billion years ago, the number should remember the number, 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was seen, planet Earth was seen around the moon, around the sun, with a moon around it, but Earth was hot, covered by streaming lava, chaotic, streaming lava. No life, no atmosphere, just darkness. Hot. They call it hot red planet. This hot red planet really fits what Moses called day one, because Moses mentioned after the beginning, there was light, there was darkness, there was this abyss, deep abyss, which could be space, chaos, which could be lava, streaming. And Moses doesn't mention any life, no trees, nothing. Darkness, no sky, no atmosphere. Who told this Moses? 3,500 years ago. So what Moses says, day one, is a red fit, what the science says, red hot planet. Good match. Let's see, let's go on. As we go on, actually the matching would be more apparent. Now, what science says, the second stage, it doesn't recognize the day. Second stage, the History Channel says, Earth was covered by water, by endless rain that took about 300 million years. Endless rain, you will never see, and Earth will never see so much rain, lasting 300 million years nonstop. Where the water came from? So scientists stand on a mountain and he says, you know, some of the water came from above because Earth entered a special region in space full of comet, full of water. So the comet, the water came out from 300, bombarded by so many comets. So he says some of the comet came from above, and then some water came from below because the rock was cooling off and spewed out some CO2 or all kind of gases and water. So the water came much of it from above and off. Of course, he doesn't mention, but he doesn't see himself anything to do according to the Bible. Just say water from the Bible. Lo and behold, and that's called, that stage, science call it water world. The water world. Earth is now covered completely covered by a big ocean, gray ocean. There was no atmosphere, no blue sky. So the water was glue or gray. Some actually refer to it as a gray planet. And a water planet could fit better name. And it was lifeless, hot, enormous pressure, no life could exist, neither in water, but there was no surface, only water. call it a water world. What does Moses say? He called that stage day 2. He says, when day 2, Elohim separated the water from above and the water from below. He mentioned two sources of water, from above and below. That's it. No life, no vegetation, nothing. That's it. Can you ask for a better fit, a better match? But the science says the water world, Earth was covered with complete ocean. It took 300 million years to form. Moses says Elohim separated water from above and below. That's it. Day 2 is over. Good. So far, good match. First day, good match. Red hot planet, as opposed to, as Moses called it, day 1. The second day, water world. Then Moses called it day 2. But it's the same story. Oh, let's go now to day 3. It's important to remember the stages, because now when you read the Bible again, it would not be just a story, a mythic, simple story. It's a true story. It's the only story that can be validated by science. Remember that. You can touch it, you can read it, you cannot discredit it. It's a true miracle in your hand. And if Moses tells the truth, you can believe him when he continues to tell you about us, why we are here, what was demanded from us, why God made us, what about the heavenly court, what about the heavenly kingdom. He tells us many more things, but basically he put it in the first. Moses put it right at the front to make sure if you believe, if you see if you validate this story, you're actually talking to us. Only we can do such a validation. Only us, we know science enough to stand up and say, oh, it's not an allegorical story. It's not like an angelic beast. It's a true story validated by science. Rabbi Akiva said it, and no ancient rabbi could say it. We can say it because we have the science. We have the tool. It means that Moses was talking to us. He put it in front, said one day people understand it better and they will believe me, especially far away generations that may be skeptic about me. Now they read it and they say, wow, wait a minute. It's a true story. Miraculous story. Now let's go move on to day 3. Day 3, what Moses called day 3, science called it the next stage. Science says, remember Earth was covered for a long time with water. Now there was suddenly a tectonic eruption, volcanic eruption at the bottom of the sea. A new rock was formed called the granite. We have it in our kitchen table, granite, but you know, the granite is miraculous rock because it's lighter than all the other rocks, and it can stand the thrust of gushing water. So dry land suddenly appeared. The first dry island appeared were granite island. You can see them today. In South Africa, you can trace them out. The first continent was Rodinia, granite. And the scientists call it the granite planet, to emphasize that this stage, which Moses called third day, this stage is marked by the granite, the first island that formed the first supercontinent after a while. And Moses said the same thing. When day 3 came down, Elohim separated the dry land from the ocean. And now science says, once they appear still on that stage, now the granite island appeared, Earth stood on a big challenge, a big transformation. The first time life will come on board. Until now, for billions of years, no life existed. But now with the granite island showed up on a sloping shore, life can be formed. And it was indeed came, we don't know where it came from, in the form of one cellular algae called stromatolite. It could live on a sloping shore, exposed to the sunlight, do photosynthesis, and still enjoy the water. Photosynthesis means they took the CO2 in the air, they split it, they have enzyme in them, they split the CO2 to carbon, which they take for their own share, and they release the oxygen. They don't need the oxygen, they release it to atmosphere. So after millions of years, so much oxygen was formed that the sky turned blue. So the granite world evolved a blue planet with a blue sky first. It was Rodinia, and this little stromatolite evolved into grass, shrubs, and trees, vegetation. The vegetation kingdom came on Earth on the first continent, and no mobile life exists. No mobile life mentioned, no fish, no bird, no, just vegetation. It ruled the Earth for almost 1 billion years. What Moses says? That after the separation on the third day, you call it third day, still on the third day, God separated the dry land from the water, and then Elohim made a judgment, a crucial judgment. While the midday was still going on, he said in the judgment, the earth stood on a crossroad because the judgment was in the middle of the day. Very crucial stuff. Would earth see life on it or not? The detail of this judgment is described in chapter 2 to 5 in Genesis. We'll talk about it. All right. So, and the decision was, Moses says, Elohim said it was good, luckily for us. So he seeded life. The word seed appeared 4 times in one verse, which means abundant of the trees and shrubs and grass. Actually, the order is mentioned grass, shrubs and trees. And Earth is now called the blue planet. The era that science has ended up is a big catastrophe. After 1 billion years of vegetation ruling Earth, no mobile life, ice age came, a long ice age, devastating ice age that took 60 million years. He killed all the vegetation on Earth. So the third day ended up with a catastrophe. And ice decimated all the vegetation on dry land, leaving only vegetation in the sea. You can say, oh, it is bad, but in fact, the vegetation in the sea has a lot of advantage. We'll see in a minute. Moses said the same, concur completely. He said at the end of that area of the third day, what you call third day, Elohim made a judgment, which means when Elohim make a judgment at the end of the day, it's like a builder come on at the end of the floor and he said, is the floor strong? Is it no good? Can I build another floor on it? So the Elohim act here as a builder, judge and a builder. And those creatures that were not good didn't fit the plan anymore. he would eliminate. Elohim, he said, there's no mercy. He built the universe sitting on a throne of judgment with no mercy. So he give life and he take life away. So it explained, the judgment explained how the ice actually decimated vegetation that was not needed anymore for the plant, but left, Elohim said it was good. So whatever was good in let's say the vegetation and water was left to grow. And it was a big, important step, because now we come to day 4. Day 4 is no creation of any creature. Day 4, Moses says, just describe the earth, luminaries was seen regularly the first time. Seasons were established, lengths of day and time, and science said the same thing. The next step, there was not under the ice, Earth looked like an ice ball. So that's the 4th stage of Earth according to science. The first, remember, first stage was red hot planet. It is compatible with day 1 of Moses. The day 2 of Moses is water world. Day 3 of Moses is the granite planet, and then the blue planet, vegetation. Now we are on day 4, as Moses says, no creation. Moses doesn't mention any creature, but he says, you know what happened? The Elohim told the luminaries, stabilize the luminaries so calendar can be established. The season were established and less of their time. So science said that under the 8th stage, the ice actually was caused by changing the axis of the Earth and stabilizing it. So there was ice form, killing the vegetation, but it was stabilized now. And day of night were established. And you know what? It's important. The vegetation learn how to, in the sea, learn how to open up at daytime, close down at night. This change of day and night is so important for the next step of living a creature. The scientist says because the nervous system need the ability to move from day to night. Without it, nervous system could never develop. So day 4 was important for the next day, day 5, where mobile life will form. First, science says in the sea, the first time, and the ice melted, and life appeared. Now the number 5 stage, 5th stage, according to science. Moses called it 5th day. Some call it day 5. Stage 5. The stage 5 is a formation of appearance of fish to their kind in the water. Mobile life appeared in the water. What explosion of life it was in the water. All kinds of swimming animals. The first eye, the first tooth, the first nose, the first smelling, the ability to kill, the ability to hide, to cheat. All that was evolved. Animal kingdom appeared in the water. At that stage, day 5, in the water. And then slowly the life cooled on the shore, and on the first vegetation, swamps were created. Now lizards appeared, giant, call it the giant insects to the kind, bird first time, and then crocodile, amphibian. So fish to the kind, then flying animal, flying creature, and then amphibian, in that order. And then science said, after millions of years of that swamps, Earth was covered with swamps, and then there was explosion of fire, and everything was decimated, apart from few animals that survived. Moses said the same thing. Moses said day 5 showed dawn. Elohim created fish to the kind, swam in water. Then he mentioned flying animals that could be insects to the kind, and birds and lizards flying. Some of these flying lizards could cover 15,000 miles with one trip. The Air Force jets, some of the Air Force jets, fighting jets, were actually built on the shape of those lizards. It's the most sophisticated flying machine ever appeared on Earth on that stage, which science says stage 1. They call it the green. So it was so much covered with swamps and trees, it's called a green planet. Moses called it day 5. And at the end, Moses says everything was decimated because Elohim sat down on the judgment. He said, when he said it was good, he eliminated some animals that were not good, and he left those for the next day. So good match, even that detail. Read the Noahide 7 commandment, you will see. Again, I spent time on it on purpose. I know the story is not exciting. It doesn't give you anything to dance with or to be happy with, but it's important to realize why Moses put it the story of creation in the beginning, to validate what he's going to tell you, to validate, to say, we are not talking about something to believe in it. When you believe in a story, to believe that this and this happened. The term believe is blind belief. I'm not so sure it's really happened, but I believe it. And maybe feel good that I believe in it. Fine, I get a reward for it. But nobody asks you to believe in it. Just open up the History Channel video and compare the video to what Moses said, and it's true. I don't need to believe in anything here. And if this story is true, then the rest of what he said is true. Then come day 6, in short, science says came cattle, big cattle, cattle-like that lived in a swamp. They were fat, heavy. They couldn't run much. Then followed by beasts like dinosaurs that preyed on the cattle. So cattle, beasts, and then in social creature like spider, ants, and this is a higher level of creature that could form society, Moses says. And then the Elohim said again in judgment, most of the animals were eliminated, and a stage was open for mammals and mankind to develop. And the Elohim said, let us make man at that point. So here's a good match, what Moses called day 6, what science says stage 6, current planet. They don't put a name on it. This is our current planet. So we live on what Moses called 6th day of creation. If we call it, remember the day is 2.11 billion years. So it makes sense. If a day is 2.1 billion years on the average, so we're still on the 6th day of creation, moving towards the Sabbath. It's the next day, which is somewhere at the end of our 6th day. It's the next day of creation, let's say. So far, again, in summary, what's special about it that a scientific history channel write the history of the world and completely unaware of what Moses said. This actually discarding what Moses said. It came up just by looking at what nature, what they said. Oh, it came up with the 6th stage, the red planet, the water planet, the water world, the granite planet, the blue planet, the ice age, the icy ball of the frozen earth, stabilized and seasoned, and then followed by swamps and animals. So day 5 ended up with fiery explosion, and then us, beast and Pangea, what they call the Zoroatic plan area, all that is day 6, and the dinosaurs, and then us. There is much more to say about it. I just gave you sum up the comparison of Moses, what Moses called day, and what science says stages, and they match like gloves. So if that's so, who told it to Moses? Is there anyone in ancient time, in Moses' time, that could write such a story? Did you see it? Did you travel to Japan and you saw it in the archives? Or Babylon? Or anywhere? The Greek never, the Greek didn't even believe there was a beginning. Of course, they didn't see any stage in the history of the universe. They didn't know anything. Nobody knew such a story. Moses somehow wrote a story like that. He said to give credibility of truthfulness of his revelation. Somehow God revealed in the story. No, there was no other explanation. Was an alien coming, somebody from somewhere telling the story? I don't know. Where was this alien? I don't see it. And who created the alien? Okay, I think we exhausted our time. Of course, we need to move on with the story of idolatry, but we are now on a better base. We now understand that we are dealing with a truthful story. It's not mythical, and you can touch it. It's a real story. It's a true story, and it relates to each one of us. We cannot ignore it. If we ignore it, we will pay the price. And it will enrich our life once we know it. We know where we are. We know we are going. Who is watching us? What for? Where are we going? Why do we need to keep? Why do we need to keep the Torah? What is our judgment? That all will come as we continue in chapter 1.